The ghost town of Silt Ridge stood desolate. Once a bustling hub of activity, it now lay in ruins, a mere shadow of its former self. The streets, once filled with the sounds of laughter and commerce, were now silent, save for the occasional whisper of the wind, an abandoned testament to forgotten dreams. The storefronts, which once displayed the hopes and ambitions of the townsfolk, now stood as silent witnesses to a time long past. Weeds grew unchecked, reclaiming the land that was once tamed by human hands. Wind howled through crumbling buildings. It was as if the very breath of the town had turned into a mournful wail, echoing through the empty streets and abandoned homes. The sound was both haunting and mesmerizing, a constant reminder of what once was. It carried the scent of decay and the weight of secrets. The cemetery, overgrown and forgotten, held the stories of those who had lived and died here. Each tombstone, now weathered and crumbling, was a testament to a life once lived, a story now lost to time. The sun beat down, casting long, eerie shadows. As the day turned to dusk, the shadows grew longer, stretching across the empty streets like dark fingers reaching out from the past. The play of light and shadow added to the town's eerie atmosphere, making it seem as if the ghosts of the past were coming to life. They danced and stretched, mimicking the ghosts some swore haunted this forsaken place. The shadows seemed to have a life of their own, moving and shifting in ways that defied explanation. It was easy to see why some believed the town was haunted, that the spirits of those who had once lived here still roamed the streets. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the creak of rusted swings in the deserted playground. The playground, once filled with the joyful sounds of children at play, was now a place of eerie stillness. The swings, moved by the wind, creaked and groaned, adding to the sense of desolation. A shiver ran down your spine. The feeling of being watched was almost palpable, as if unseen eyes were following your every move. It was a sensation that was hard to shake, a constant reminder that you were not alone in this forsaken place. It whispered of unseen eyes and the feeling of being watched. Every creak, every rustle of the wind seemed to carry a message, a warning to those who dared to venture into the heart of the ghost town. The feeling of being watched was unnerving, making every step feel like a journey into the unknown. Silt Ridge was a place time forgot. The buildings, once proud and sturdy, were now crumbling and overgrown, nature slowly reclaiming what was once hers. The town stood as a stark reminder of the passage of time and the impermanence of human endeavors, or perhaps a place time chose to erase. The broken clock tower, its hands frozen in time, seemed to mock the very concept of time itself. The faded signs and boarded-up windows told a story of abandonment and neglect, a place left to wither and die. It beckoned those brave enough or foolish enough to uncover its truths. The town held its secrets close, revealing them only to those who dared to look. It was a place of mystery and intrigue, a place where the past and present seemed to collide, creating a sense of timelessness that was both captivating and unsettling. Silt Ridge wasn't always this way. It was once a thriving community, a beacon of hope and prosperity in an otherwise desolate landscape. The town was founded in the late 1800s during the height of the mining boom. People from all over flocked to Silt Ridge, lured by the promise of fortune and a better life. Once it bustled with life, a mining town brimming with hope. The streets were filled with the sounds of hammers striking ore, the laughter of children playing, and the chatter of families going about their daily lives. The town center was a hub of activity, with shops, saloons, and schools catering to the needs of the growing population. Families built lives. Children chased laughter. The miners worked tirelessly, day and night, extracting precious minerals from the earth. The town thrived, and with it, the dreams of its inhabitants. But then, tragedy struck. The mine collapsed, trapping hundreds of miners deep underground. Despite desperate rescue efforts, there were no survivors. The town, shrouded in grief and despair, emptied as quickly as it had filled. Whispers began. The once lively streets fell silent, and the buildings that had once been filled with joy and laughter now stood empty and decaying. The townspeople, unable to bear the weight of their loss, left in search of new beginnings. Tales of miners' souls, unable to find peace, haunting the town. The stories spread like wildfire, and soon, Silt Ridge was known not just for its tragic past, but for the eerie presence that seemed to linger in the air. Visitors reported seeing ghostly figures, hearing disembodied voices, and feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness and despair. Stories of strange lights, disembodied voices, and shadows that moved with unnatural speed. Some claimed to have seen the spirits of the miners, still clad in their work clothes, wandering the empty streets. Others spoke of mysterious lights flickering in the abandoned buildings, and shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Silt Ridge became synonymous with tragedy. The once thriving town was now a ghostly reminder of the fragility of life and the ever-present specter of death. The photographs that remain tell a story of a place that was once full of life, but is now a somber testament to the passage of time and the inevitability of change. A ghost town in every sense of the word. The buildings, now in ruins, stand as silent witnesses to the lives that were once lived there. The streets, overgrown with weeds, are a stark contrast to the bustling thoroughfares they once were. Silt Ridge is a place where the past and present coexist, a haunting reminder of what once was.
The stories, they say, are as old as the town itself. Passed down through generations, these tales have become an integral part of the town's identity. They speak of a time when Silt Ridge was a place of hope and promise, and of the tragedy that turned it into a place of sorrow and loss. The miners, they never left. Their spirits, bound to the place where they met their untimely end, continue to roam the town. Some say they are searching for peace. Others believe they are trying to warn the living of the dangers that lie beneath the surface. Their spirits, still searching, still waiting. The ghostly apparitions that are said to wander the streets of Silt Ridge are a poignant reminder of the lives that were lost and the dreams that were shattered. They are a testament to the enduring power of memory and the unbreakable bond between the past and the present.
Dr. Amelia Mason, a renowned paranormal investigator, felt an inexplicable pull towards Silt Ridge. It was as if the town itself was calling out to her, whispering secrets of the past that only she could uncover. Her pulse quickened with a thrill of anticipation, mingled with a touch of fear. The unknown always had that effect on her, a blend of excitement and trepidation. She had spent her life chasing ghosts, seeking answers to the unknown. Her library was filled with dusty tomes on the supernatural, and her equipment was state-of-the-art, designed to detect even the faintest whisper of the otherworldly. Silt Ridge, she felt, held an almost magnetic pull. The stories she had heard about this place were unlike any other. It was said that the town was a hotspot for paranormal activity, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, a chance to prove the whispers true. The tales of ghostly apparitions, eerie symbols, and whispering shadows had intrigued her for years. Now she was finally here, ready to uncover the truth. Her jeep kicked up dust as she entered the ghost town, her gaze sweeping over the dilapidated buildings. She had come prepared. Every piece of equipment she owned was packed neatly in the back of her jeep, ready for use. Cameras, EMF readers, and a journal to document her findings. Each tool had its purpose, each one a key to unlocking the mysteries of Silt Ridge. Her journal was her most prized possession. Filled with notes, sketches, and observations from her previous investigations, it was a testament to her dedication and passion for the paranormal. What she wasn't prepared for was the overwhelming sense of dread that washed over her. The air was thick with an oppressive atmosphere, as if the town itself was alive and watching her every move. Silt Ridge was more than just a ghost town, it was a graveyard of forgotten souls. The stories of its haunted past were etched into every crumbling building, every overgrown grave.
The air here, it's thick with history, with sorrow. Each step she took seemed to echo with the memories of those who had once lived here, their joys and sorrows lingering in the very fabric of the town. I can feel it in my bones. The weight of the past pressing down on me, the whispers of the dead brushing against my skin. It's as if the town itself is trying to communicate, to tell its story. This place, it's waiting for something, or someone. The feeling was undeniable. Silt Ridge was a place of waiting, a place where time seemed to stand still, holding its breath for the arrival of someone who could finally understand its secrets. As she set up her equipment, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The shadows seemed to move on their own, and the silence was deafening. The EMF reader spiked suddenly, sending a thrill of excitement through her. This was it, the moment she had been waiting for, proof that the stories were true. She quickly jotted down her observations in her journal, sketching the symbols she had seen and noting the readings from her equipment. Every detail was important, every piece of evidence a step closer to the truth. As she walked through the ghost town, camera in hand, she took photos of the buildings and surroundings. Each click of the shutter was a moment captured, a piece of the puzzle. Reviewing the photos, she noticed something strange in one of the images. A faint figure, barely visible, standing in the background. Her heart raced. Was it a trick of the light? Or had she captured something truly paranormal? As night fell, she set up a night vision camera, the eerie green glow of the screen casting an otherworldly light. The real investigation was about to begin. Sitting in the dark, she listened intently, holding a digital recorder. The silence was thick, almost tangible, as she waited for any sign of the paranormal. Suddenly, faint whispers were picked up by the recorder. Her eyes widened in shock and excitement. She played the recording back, straining to make out the words. It was a voice, distant and ghostly, speaking in a language she couldn't understand. Determined, she made notes in her journal, planning her next move. This was just the beginning. Silt Ridge had many secrets, and she was here to uncover them all. With a flashlight in hand, she walked towards an old, decrepit building. The night was just beginning, and so was her journey into the unknown. The first night descended like a shroud. I set up my equipment in the old saloon, its once grand interior now crumbling and decayed. The air grew heavy, thick with a silence that felt almost suffocating, and then it began.
The soft whisper of a name, a cold spot that sent shivers down her spine. Her camera caught a fleeting shadow, darting across the room. Her heart pounded. Fear, exhilarating and terrifying, coursed through her veins. She pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the veil of darkness that cloaked Silt Ridge.
Days turned into nights. I documented every unexplained occurrence. Voices seemed to seep from the walls, recounting the horrors of that fateful day. My EMF reader spiked near the collapsed mine shaft, a cacophony of readings suggesting a powerful presence.
One night, she saw him, a miner covered in coal dust, his eyes filled with an eternal sadness. He reached out to her, his voice a mournful whisper, begging for release. Amelia was both terrified and heartbroken. She realized then that the spirits of Silt Ridge weren't malicious, they were trapped, tethered to the site of their demise.
Deep in the archives of the town's crumbling library, I unearthed the truth. It wasn't just the collapse that haunted Silt Ridge. The mine owners, aware of safety violations, had ignored the warnings, prioritizing profit over their workers' lives.
The collapse was no accident, it was a tragedy born of greed and indifference. The miners' souls were trapped, their anger and resentment fueling the paranormal activity that plagued the town. Amelia knew she had to help them find peace. But how could she appease souls so consumed by injustice?